Right now, scandal intersection. Will Weiner's scandal help or hurt Spitzer's campaign? And why is one politician feeling the heat while the other doesn't seem to be? Our panel sounds off on New York's very own tabloid twins. And next, will Hillary be dragged down by the Weiner scandal? With her top aides stealing the headlines, are the Clintons working to distance themselves from the Weiners? And later, the evolution of the sex scandal. Has Huma Abedin forever changed the equation by not only standing by her man, but also standing up for him? And how much is the public really willing to forgive? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. Rich will be joining us a little bit later in the program. He'll be on the panel. He'll be an interesting role reversal you won't want to miss. But we begin tonight with the scandal that has rocked the once sleepy New York City mayoral race. The pressure is on. Calls are growing for Anthony Weiner to drop out of the race for Gracie Mansion. The latest mayoral poll, which came out yesterday, shows that Weiner has now dropped into fourth place. But compare these numbers to where he was before the latest sexing scandal, when Weiner was at the top of the heap. And a majority of Democratic voters in New York City now say that Weiner should drop out of the race. But Weiner says he is continuing his quest and doing so undeterred.
I don't take my cues on policy from the Sunday talk shows listening to pundits. I never have. I don't take my cues from the headline writers in the newspapers. I never have.
Weiner reiterating his plans to persist in a fundraising email that he sent to supporters yesterday. Even though Weiner lost his campaign manager over the weekend, he still got cash to back up his somewhat sinking campaign. Thanks to the city's generous campaign financing system, Weiner's got $3 million in public funds at his disposal. If he drops out of the race, he loses all that cash. Oh, and by the way, Weiner can't really say if he's still sexting now. During an interview with the New York Daily News, a reporter asked, "There is no one you are sexting now?" Weiner's response, quote, "You can quibble about beginnings, middles, and ends, but what we're talking about is over a year ago." Hopefully no quibbling in our panel tonight, as we're joined by Mary Alice Williams, who is back with us, acclaimed journalist and anchor. Welcome back. Dominic Carter, acclaimed political journalist and author. And Michael Tobman, acclaimed political consultant and acclaimed former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer. Lots of acclaim to go around. So, Michael and Mary Alice, I'm curious. The assumption is that Weiner is toast, correct? He's certainly not going to be mayor, but we expect he'll stay in the race?
That's my assumption. He's going to stay in the race. The other candidates and other elected office holders like Kristen Gillibrand, Senator, and Governor Cuomo don't have to say anything, because here is a legally qualified candidate, and the voters of New York are already making very rapid decisions about him.
He's going to be on the ballot. There are only 3 ways to not be on the ballot once certain legal deadlines have passed. You either die, you move out of the state, or you become unqualified for the office by dint of getting another office. The way that usually works, if the candidate is a lawyer, is you nominate them to be a judge. Anthony's not a lawyer, so he'll be on the ballot. The question is, you know, if Mickey Mouse is on the ballot, he gets a certain percentage. So Anthony will get a certain percentage beyond the Disney character.
No, you would hope, or you would assume at this point. It depends on which Disney character. But Mary Alice mentioned that Cuomo and Gillibrand and the Schumers don't have to say anything because he's on the ballot legally. But from a political standpoint, does it reach a point, especially for Governor Cuomo, where, considering everything with Vito Lopez and Shelley Silver, he may be boxed into a corner to say something about Anthony Weiner? And Schumer, your old boss's relationship, I mean, they were Weiner's his protege to a certain degree.
There is no end of disappointment. All of these top-tier office holders have with Anthony's conduct. The big X factor and why some people may be hesitant to call on him to drop out at that level is because he could possibly win. You know, if the difference is somebody's plummeted and they're down to 16% and the front runners at 27%, and what happens with runoffs, I don't know that people necessarily want to do it.
Has a better chance of being elected mayor right now than Anthony Weiner does.
And I don't even live in New York.
It also diminishes all of these office holders we talked about to start weighing in on it. And
don't they get tarred with that brush? The more they mention his name, you see Andrew Cuomo's face and the name Anthony Weiner kind of coming out of his mouth.
If you're Cuomo, Gillibrand, or Schumer, why should you get...
Right.
Well, Schumer is not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole, considering that they used to one time be close with each other. But if you're a sitting senator or the governor, why should you go near this? The man is sinking badly by himself. The other candidates don't even, in the mayor's race, don't want to touch him.
But isn't this essentially the same debate we had 2 years ago when Weiner was in Congress, and he hadn't broken any laws, it didn't appear. He probably could have stayed, but there was pressure on Nancy Pelosi and pressure on key Democrats to push him out of the race, or to push him out of Congress, and that's eventually what led to his resignation. Couldn't the same thing happen with the 3 top New York Democrats that we were just talking about?
It's my opinion, when he dropped out the last time, he was in political Siberia, when he dropped out of Congress. Weiner does not want to go there again. Sadly, that's exactly where he's headed, and perhaps therapy. And I'm not saying that making light of the situation, because I feel it's very sad, and I've known him for more than 20 years, and it's clear that he needs professional help.
More professional help.
Yes.
But Michael, could you see this getting to a point where it's, because I've seen Republicans tweeting about this and commenting and saying, where is Governor Cuomo on this? Where is, where is Chuck Schumer on this? At some point, if the questions don't stop, you may need an answer from those guys.
Nothing is ever just one thing, and there's really no need for any of these top-tier office holders to weigh in on the ridiculousness of this situation. And the other issue is, I'm told there are papers out there that are running through legal. They're sitting on stories, that'll be coming out on September 4th and September 7th, and the primaries on September 10th. There's more out there. So why get involved when the thing will probably take care of itself? Again, with the 2% caveat that who knows what could happen.
The other angle that I wanted to get into on the race is Eliot Spitzer's race for comptroller. He waited until well after Weiner had entered the mayoral race. It seemed like all of the headlines had been, all the oxygen had been taken over by Weiner, and that seemed to ease Spitzer's move into the comptroller race to the point where first poll, he had a lead on Scott Stringer. Does Weiner's downfall help, or apparent downfall, does it help or hurt Spitzer in his race?
I think it does both. It helps and hurts. To the extent that, as you said at the top of the program, they are the tabloid twins, then they're inextricably linked in some way. On the other hand, when you compare the two, Eliot Spitzer is old news. That was a couple years ago. And Anthony Weiner is very current. So, and he's even more ew, if you will. What did John Oliver on the Daily Show say? This is deja ew. It's so creepy that he makes Eliot look a little better by comparison.
Anthony was also leaped into a race where some would say that the field was thin. If there were stronger candidates, I say that Bill de Blasio is a friend, and I think Bill Thompson certainly has a demographic edge, and Speaker Quinn has a certain reputation. But you could make an argument the field was a bit thin. Eliot never put on airs. He never pretended. He said the fix was in, there's only one candidate, everyone seems to be coalescing around Scott Stringer. I'm in it. I have 100% name recognition. I don't have to go to a single Democratic club. I don't have to talk to a single elected official or union. I'm taking this directly to the voters. They've been running very different campaigns. So I think the more attention paid to Anthony, the better it is for Eliot.
But I couldn't agree more.
Because for Eliot, it's also burning calendar days. That's another campaign tactic.
Yes.
Every day you're closer to Election Day without you being the headline is another day closer to the voters making their decision.
Andrew, I couldn't agree more with the assessment. If you're Eliot Spitzer, you're sitting back right now going, whoo, because every day that Weiner is page one, and every day that Weiner eats up all the political space, that's a focus that's not on you. And that's good news, because if Spitzer can get to September 10th without being page one news, he's going to win the Democratic nomination, which in all likelihood means that he's the next city controller of New York.
But as all of the headlines continue for Anthony Weiner and the ooh factor continues, you don't think that leads to potential voters' remorse as people are going into the ballots and trying, I'm not going to vote for that guy. I could get these same headlines all over again. Or do you think it really deflects so much attention off of Eliot Spitzer that?
I don't know that a lot of people know who Scott Stringer is. Now, both Christine Quinn and Kristen Gillibrand, the senator, have both endorsed him, talked very highly of him, but his name recognition is virtually zero, I think.
I tell you what, I wonder if the Republicans aren't the ones who are salivating at all of this bad news on the Democratic side, just potentially tainting the entire ticket.
It could absolutely be the reason the New York City and New York State Republican Party gets its second, third, seventh wind. Absolutely.
Andrew, just keep in mind, prior to this second round of sexting from Mr. Weiner and Mr. Spitzer were collectively the front runners in each of their races.
Remember
that.
Right. Anthony's gone down, pun intended, and Elliott has stayed up.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Up next on RFL, will the Weiner campaign drag down Hillary Clinton as well? It's what we're asking you at home tonight. Carlos Danger's collateral damage. Will Weiner hurt Spitzer and or Hillary? We want you to head to Facebook and Twitter to sound off. And later on RFL, is Ray Kelly a good choice for Secretary of Homeland Security, or would selecting Kelly force President Obama into the middle of a discussion on stop and frisk that nobody thinks the president really wants to have? We're going to get into that and much more as we continue. Stay with us.